Hi there. I want to talk today about budget-friendly tools that I recommend. I'm really all about being budget-friendly and conscious about investing in an online course process because I think if your market is new and you're not sure how they'll respond, the best option is to spend a little bit, invest a little bit into the development process just to get you started, but then afterwards, as you sort of get familiar and you get to know the people that are you're buying and selling to, then you can definitely upgrade these areas over time. And this is sort of from my experience as an instructional designer of things that I found that are really helpful to sort of grow my own business. And I already said in a previous presentation and video that really begins with this idea of a lean startup. So with that said, I want to talk about some software that you might consider using to help you build an online course. And the idea is this is kind of budget friendly and it's just to get you started. And as your course content and audience grows, you want to definitely evolve your course so that it's more solid, has better production quality, and it also really delivers value as always. So, borrowing from this idea of being lean, some of the software that I use is iMovie, Camtasia, and Loon. So I really recommend these tools because iMovie is already built into my MacBook Pro, and it is good for the basics. You don't need a lot of fancy equipment or fancy software to get started. Now, if you want to do more with video editing, then I would definitely recommend Camtasia, especially if you want to import a green screen and do a little bit more functionality that is not built into iMovie. And then I also recommend Loom, which is has a free and has a freemium version. So the free one just allows you to record your screencast here, make some very basic trims to your video in terms of length, and then there's a freemium version. I call it freemium because it's a free tool, but they also have a more free, similar version to the free one, but with added features. And in the freemium features, it's $60 a year, which is very inexpensive. And if you plan on recording a lot of screencasts and videos, I think this is a great way to begin. As long as your computer is recent, the webcam and microphone that's built in is usually enough to get started. Now, I'm not saying to as long term that you should just rely on what you have, but in the beginning, when you're starting, just use what you have. There's no need to go out there and spend a lot of money on fancy equipment unless you know that that's what your audience cares about and wants. And then I also recommend any kind of headphones or earbuds so that when you're recording, you can really hear yourself. Sometimes there's a lot of distractions and it can be kind of hard to really hear what we're recording. And so I highly recommend headphones. And then also in terms of building a basic slide for recording, I recommend Google Slides because everyone can use Google Slides for free, or Microsoft PowerPoint or Keynote. Those are just, easy and simple tools that we already have. And then in terms of equipment, I also think in addition to a computer, most of us have a mobile phone, Android or iOS, and those are great to sort of record videos of ourselves, doing Instagram lives, doing Facebook lives. You don't always have to do everything on a desktop computer. I also highly recommend a tripod because when you're recording yourself, you sometimes want to be able to show different things, and so a tripod allows you to be hands-free. And most tripods, the one I have is the most simple, ranges from $10, or you can go fancy with a gimlet to $50. I'm not going to name too many tools because I think the idea is to give you a sense of how you can build a budget-friendly first course. And if you have a DSL camera, I highly recommend also using that against a really clean and clear backdrop. And if you don't have a DSL camera, I would highly think about investing in one if you really want to do more videos and even photography over the long term as well. Think of it as a dual purpose, like you're not just using it for your online course, you're using it to sort of, take more photos, because even though the iPhone is great, some people might want a more professional look. And if you really want to go fancy, there's a lot of what we call 4K cameras. These are the cameras that are used in movie and TV productions and really gives a better picture quality over time. And then last, I also recommend a green screen and or backdrop, depending on what your setup is at home or apartment. Having a green screen sort of kind of hides everything else in the background and sort of makes it look like you have your own mini professional studio at home. And then last, this is probably not, and I shouldn't say not, but most people would never consider this. But though there are tons of marketing and sales experts out there, there is one course that I've always benefited from in the last 2 years, which is Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff. You can get the book on Amazon, on Kindle, Barnes & Nobles. You can also buy the course, which is definitely much more comprehensive and definitely has a lot of solid language and copy that you can borrow from and use in your own online course business. And then 2 other things I would like to recommend on the topic of learning and growth around marketing and sales. The best way to learn is to learn by doing. So going back to the idea of agile, learn by doing it, learn by testing it, and iterating. So the faster you start doing things, you'll find you'll make much more progress than spending time taking a course and consuming content. And then the second thing I also recommend is learn backwards. So look at patterns from email newsletters, look at websites and look at the language of the website copy. Look at the emails of people that you follow and buy from, and look at how they are dripping content and dripping email sequences that lead up to a big launch. So that's my sort of recommendation for being budget friendly and also how to learn marketing and sales at the same time. Because if you're going to build a course, you're going to need to learn marketing and sales. And what better way to learn marketing and sales than by doing the work, looking at the patterns and implementing them and testing them in your own business. So leave a question or comment if you have any questions. Thanks again.